This is the story of a second chance, given and ignored. On August 4th, 2021, at 1:49 in the morning, a police officer in New Jersey named John Nunes stopped a speeding car in North Burin Township. Inside the vehicle were 27-year-old passenger Alexis Rodriguez and 24-year-old driver Luis Fernando, whom the officer had seen racing down a busy street at well over 100 miles per hour. Officer Nunes informed Luis that he had nearly crashed into his patrol car and several others while speeding through the town, breaking multiple traffic laws, including running red lights.
You can shut the car off and give me your license, registration, and insurance, please. Template.
Yeah, and
so that's your registration, right?
Yeah.
The reason for the yours.
That kid was speeding so fast, he almost hit another kid in a fight.
I know. That's why I stopped him.
He almost hit me too.
Ma'am, that's why I stopped him. Have a nice night, okay? Yeah, that's what I'm stopping you for. Reckless driving, careless driving, speeding, and the lights you ran, okay? You were doing at least 100 on Kennedy Boulevard. All right, man? You almost struck my car because I was making a right turn. All right?
Despite the severity of the situation, Nunes learned the couple was on their first date and showed some understanding, deciding to issue only 3 tickets instead of a harsher punishment, hoping the experience would be a lesson for Luis to never repeat the mistake. He told them that being sorry for speeding was fine, but nearly killing each other on a first date wasn't the way to go, offering some final words of advice before letting them continue their evening.
All right, man. Here's your documents.
Thank you. I'm sorry, we're on a first date, me and him.
That's fine, but
Sorry.
almost killing each other is not the way to start on a first date.
Because it just got really carried away. I'm sorry.
I know.
It's my fault. It's really my fault. I swear.
It's not your fault, because if
No,
he gets
it
into an
is.
accident, it's his fault.
No, it's my fault.
Listen,
'Cause I was
you're getting 3 tickets. I could have gave you a
lot.
lot more, okay? You're not even supposed to be driving at this time because you have a provisional license.
Oh my God.
So
it's
you're
my
getting
fault.
reckless. I didn't give you speeding. I'm giving you that break, all right?
It's my fault.
You got reckless, the traffic light that you ran, and for driving after hours. All right, man?
Thank you.
Get home safe.
After the warning, Luis and Alexis drove off to continue their romantic night elsewhere, hopefully in a safer way. But just 10 minutes later, at around 2:13 that same morning, Officer Nunes was called to a nearby accident scene. When he arrived, he was devastated to discover the car involved in the crash was the same one he had pulled over moments ago, now destroyed beyond recognition.
Yo, this is the same kid. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
6-1. Paramedics are needed.
We're gonna need a crash team, sir. Crash team, we need a crash team. That's the same car I just had. Fatal.
Inside the wreckage were Luis and Alexis, their bodies so badly mangled that Officer Nunes could tell from a distance the crash had been fatal. He immediately called for a crash team, struggling to come to terms with the tragedy as he spoke to fellow officers and a paramedic over the next 2 hours, trying to make sense of what had happened. He kept repeating that it was the same car he had just stopped, mentioning how he had told them to slow down and relax, even recalling their excuse that they were just trying to get home.
That's the same car I just had, Sarge.
What happened?
That's the same car I just had, man.
What did you have?
That I stopped him for speeding.
Okay. All right.
Damn, bro, God.
What?
That's the same car.
I don't know. Are you okay?
Yeah, bro, I'm good. It's just, like, bro, I just told you, slow down, man. Like,
You just stopped that car?
yeah, just hit him off with
Just
3.
slow
Like,
down.
Oh, that was the same car?
yeah, I told him, like, bro, slow down. I see, like, it's my fault we're trying. It's not your fault. If you get into an accident,
You good though?
yeah, it sucks. Yeah, that sucks.
Nunes expressed his frustration, noting that he had to get checked out himself after the incident, feeling the weight of the situation as he had warned them just minutes before. According to news reports released later, another driver had been backing his large semi into a local business for a delivery when Luis and Alexis crashed into his vehicle. The crash was far from a random accident. Investigations revealed that just 5 seconds before the impact, Luis had been driving at 124 miles per hour, even faster than when he was pulled over, showing he had ignored Nooney's warnings. It seemed Luis took the officer's leniency as a boost to his ego, believing he could get away with anything on the road, leading to the fatal collision. The entire clip is deeply heartbreaking, serving as a powerful reminder to always drive safely. Officer Nunez did everything right, but sometimes the warning isn't enough. On December 30th, 2019, a motorist was driving along Highway 1 in San Francisco, California, a stunning route high above the sea with open cliff faces showcasing the vast ocean below. It's one of the most beautiful drives in the country, but for this driver, the breathtaking scenery turned into a moment of sheer terror. The driver called 911, reporting they had just seen a car fall off the edge of the cliff, which stood hundreds of feet above the rocky water below. It happened so fast, almost in a split second, that the driver wasn't sure if it was real, but their dash cam, which was recording, confirmed the horrifying sight. A car speeding over the edge, going airborne as the footage cut off, heading for a tragic drop into the ocean. What made it even more disturbing was the car's speed. It seemed the brakes were never touched. Within minutes, rescuers arrived at the scene, finding tire tracks in the sandy dirt leading straight off the cliff, proving a car had indeed gone over. But when they looked down into the water below, they found nothing. No car, no driver, not even a trace, despite searching the area with rescue boats. Over the following days and weeks, crews kept looking, hoping the driver might still be alive, but all they found were a few car parts that couldn't be matched to the make or model seen in the video. The car in the footage was identified as a green 2009 Lexus SUV, a rare vehicle, and the clip was shared widely across news outlets and the internet. Yet, no one came forward to report a missing person who owned such a car, and no missing person cases were linked to the incident. It was as if the car and its driver had vanished the moment the video ended, leaving behind an eerie mystery with no answers. Theories spread across the internet. Some believed it was supernatural. Others thought the car was swept away before investigators arrived, possibly entering the water at a perfect angle to leave no debris. Some even questioned if the video was fake, with experts examining it for signs of CGI, but they found no evidence of tampering, confirming the footage was real, making the mystery even more unexplainable. The case faded from headlines until April 29, 2020, 5 months after the incident, when swimmers at Montara State Beach spotted an object floating in the distance. It turned out to be a body, Tracy Sinclair, a woman from the area who had gone missing around the same time as the crash. Police checked her records and found she owned a dark green 2009 Lexus SUV, finally giving a clue about who was in the car that day and confirming a vehicle had indeed crashed. Despite this discovery, questions remained. Why wasn't Tracy linked to the case earlier, even though she fit the profile perfectly? And why did her car go off the cliff at such speed without braking? Many believe the crash was intentional, given the lack of brake marks. Strangest of all, Tracy's green Lexus SUV has never been recovered, nor have any of its parts, leaving the mystery unresolved. Though Tracy's family found some closure in knowing what happened to her after their devastating loss. In February 2020, Ekaterina Didenko, a popular influencer in Moscow, Russia, was getting ready to celebrate her 29th birthday. After graduating from medical school as a pharmacist, Ekaterina chose to start a blog about homemade medicines instead of working in a pharmacy, gaining over 1 million followers across Instagram and other platforms, even though her advice was often seen as dangerous. For her birthday, on February 28th, she wanted to throw a big party to impress her followers, with her husband Valentin Didenko helping plan the event. Ekaterina and Valentin had booked a venue with a swimming pool, and Valentin had a special idea called a steam show to make the party unforgettable. Inspired by a viral trend, he planned to use dry ice to create a dense fog in the pool room, turning it into a magical scene. As the party went on and guests enjoyed themselves, Valentin gathered everyone into the pool room, handing out gowns and goggles. Then dumped a box of dry ice into the water to start the show. The pool quickly disappeared under a thick cloud of gas, creating the stunning effect Ekaterina and Valentin had dreamed of. She pulled out her phone to record the moment, and Valentin dove into the misty water, vanishing beneath the fog as the crowd cheered, thinking he was just playing around for the show. But there was a deadly problem. When dry ice mixes with water, it doesn't just make fog. It releases carbon dioxide in a highly concentrated form, which is toxic to humans, causing shortness of breath and even suffocation. To make matters worse, Valentin had ordered the doors closed to keep the fog inside the small room, leaving almost no ventilation, making the CO 2 levels dangerously high. While the guests were distracted, recording the spectacle for their own social media, Valentin was suffocating, drowning in the water below and unable to breathe in the toxic fog above, trapped with no way out. Ekaterina turned the camera on herself, laughing and shouting in excitement as another man jumped into the water, while behind her, friends kept filming, completely unaware that Valentin was dying at the bottom of the pool. Soon, partygoers started feeling the effects. Some felt shortness of breath and passed out, while others experienced sharp pains from chemical burns caused by the toxic gas. When the room was finally evacuated, 3 people were missing: Natalia, Yuri, and Valentin. They were found dead at the bottom of the pool, having suffocated in the toxic fog. What should have been a perfect birthday for Ekaterina turned into a nightmare, leaving her a widow. After the tragedy, Ekaterina posted the video online and vlogged her experience at the hospital.
Вали больше нет с нами. Еще Наташа и Юра. Больше никаких комментариев не могу дать.
Documenting her husband's death, which many found strange, accusing her of using the tragedy to gain more followers.
Сегодня меня прям прорвало. Я вчера думала, что это неправда. Я думала, что это сон. Но сегодня проснулась, куда где мама?
The scrutiny grew intense. Russian authorities even investigated Ekaterina for possibly causing death by negligence, questioning why a trained pharmacist didn't consider the dangers of dry ice, but no charges were filed. Just 5 months later, Ekaterina remarried, and her posts about the incident gained her an additional 500,000 followers, leaving many unsettled by her behavior after such a devastating loss. Kazim Ali, an underwater welder, started his day diving into the waters off the coast of Trinidad and Tobago, swimming toward a large structure in the murky sea. He worked for Pariah Fuel Trading Company, tasked with 4 other divers to repair an inactive oil pipeline stretching 1,200 feet underwater, with 2 ends rising at a 90-degree angle to the surface, called risers, used to transport oil between ships in the company. Kazim and his team, including his close friends Fisokban, Rishi Nassar, Y.F. Henry, and Christopher Boudrum, focused their work at a spot called Berth 6, capped by a hyperbaric chamber, an airtight enclosure allowing them to breathe and weld underwater. Kazim entered the chamber, joining his colleagues, and they removed their scuba gear, breathing the fresh air inside as they began their task of removing an inflatable plug from the pipeline to prevent oil contamination. Suddenly, the footage went dark as a disaster struck. Removing the plug caused a sudden change in pressure known as delta P, creating an instant suction that pulled everything inside the chamber into the pipe. The equipment, air tanks, tools, and all 5 divers were sucked into the 36-inch wide tube, dragged at an incredible speed while being struck by their heavy gear. As the divers came to a stop, one called out, and miraculously, all 5 responded. They had survived, landing in an air pocket where they could still breathe at the right angle. But they were now trapped in total darkness inside the narrow, oil and water-filled pipe, badly injured from the debris, with some in much worse shape than others, unsure of their exact location. After assessing their situation, they realized Christopher Boudrum was in the best physical shape, with his head facing what they believed was the direction of the chamber they had entered, their only hope for escape. If they went the other way toward berth 5, they'd hit another inflatable plug with no way out. The 5 linked up, connecting their feet to the shoulders of the person below, and began moving through the darkness, but soon faced another challenge. The pipe ahead was filled with water, and they had no idea how long the stretch would last. Christopher and Fiso, at the front, decided to push forward, leaving the 3 more injured divers behind, holding their breath as they inched through the unknown, not knowing if they'd find air again. After what felt like hours, they broke into another air pocket, finding 2 oxygen tanks by some miracle, which they used to keep going through more water and air pockets, hoping they were nearing the end. But as they got closer, Fiso's condition worsened. He panicked, refusing to continue, yelling at Christopher to stop, overwhelmed by the stress. Christopher shouted back to Fiso and the others, now hundreds of feet away, that he'd get help and return for them, pressing on alone, praying his oxygen wouldn't run out before reaching the end. Christopher finally reached the end at berth 6, but the pressure was so intense he couldn't swim up the riser, so he grabbed a nearby chain and held on, waiting for rescue. A diver eventually spotted him, pulling him to the surface. Christopher had escaped an unimaginable, claustrophobic nightmare, and with rescuers now aware his friends were alive, hope for a miraculous rescue seemed possible. But Pariah Fuel Trading Company, despite having a rescue crew on scene, decided it was too dangerous to send anyone back into the pipe, even though they knew the 4 other divers were still alive. After just 12 hours, the company began preparing death notices for the 4 men, with the CEO messaging colleagues on WhatsApp that the effort would now be a recovery, assuming the divers had died. Yet, faint banging sounds could be heard from the pipe, showing the men were alive, fighting for their lives, desperately hitting the sides to be heard. The banging continued through the day and night, but Pariah did nothing, leaving the 4 divers to die slowly in the tight, dark, oil-filled pipe, clinging to hope for a rescue that never came. 2 days later, the pipe fell silent, and 5 days after that, the 4 bodies were recovered, with Christopher as the sole survivor. He was so devastated by the lack of action that he tried to re-enter the pipe to save his friends, but was held back.
Because everything inside me open and rescue, you know? Everything inside me open and rescue was going on. Nobody was making an attempt to rescue me. You know what I mean? Sorry.
Pariah faced legal consequences for the incident and their failure to act, but they were eventually cleared of wrongdoing. This tragedy, one of the most disturbing ever captured, highlights the dangers of differential pressure situations and the horrific fate of the divers who were abandoned.